Alright, let's talk about tag, not just from a gameplay standpoint, but also from a marketing and FGC standpoint. Before I begin though, I did forget these two things.
Lambda 11. Lambda. Shadow Labris. Elizabeth.
Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about where tag is from a competitive standpoint. So the dust is starting to settle, and of course, like when anything happens regarding a patch, tier lists are bound to come out. And with those set tier lists, people are beginning to notice that the top tier stay virtually the same in terms of the top team. This of course being Mitsuru Yuzu. Before I continue though, I'd like to point out how skill triumphed over tier, as at Combo Breaker just days after the patch was applied, a Japanese player playing Team 40K won out over Mitsuru Yuzu multiple times. Which, when factoring out how much of a hit Walled 6P was, is actually quite impressive. But back on track. On the topic of Combo Breaker's top 8, there were multiple Mitsuru Yuzus. Now while yes, Team Scythe will definitely see a decrease in play somewhat, it was just replaced with another team that allows for very little player interaction. So as of right now, I'm calling it now, Mitsuru will become the next pain that everyone complains about. Of course, no one will really stand up and say it's a problem until a top player says something first, but it does become very boring from a viewer perspective. Yes, I'm aware that no matter the game, there will be top tiers and low tiers, but like many others, no one likes top tiers that don't have to play the game and instead get away with flailing about because they can. I mean, you can look at the controversy a few weeks back about Wagner from Undernight if you want more proof, or Bardock from Dragon Ball FighterZ. Top players of course will say that because of their level it's different, but when you have businesses like Evo that base which games they select based on viewership and shine-ups, it can become very bland. I can't speak for everyone, so I'll speak for myself, but before the patch, whenever I saw a Team Scythe in top 8, I will legit just get up and go get something to drink, because watching that team is just very bland to me. For many others though, some have started to come back to the game, citing that because now their character that they wanted is now playable, or because the game is finally updated. Now let's talk about the player count though. From a player count's perspective though, many people have started to come back to the game as now they're able to play characters that they actually wanted to play all along. And some are just finally happy to play an updated version of the game. Of course, the patch will soon reveal more top tier teams that will join the ranks of Mitsuru Yuzu. It is my hope though that the game does not devolve in only 3 or 4 teams being viable in top 8. Now Mr. Wizard himself has pointed out now that Tag's patch is finally out, he wants to see the numbers improve and see Tag move out of last place. I must say I can imagine Tag moving to maybe 7th place. The problem here though is I don't expect it to last. Dragon Ball FighterZ numbers from last year was upwards of 2,500. That said, I would imagine that once the tournament gets closer, its numbers will go up dramatically, thus leaving Tag's number to surpass maybe Samurai Showdown and the likes of Soul Calibur 6. 2 games I don't foresee having interest in the 1,000. But why is this important? Well, as I and many people have said, it stands to reason that ARC wants to see Tag go to EVO next year. With a game that is in dead last, I cannot foresee that happening at all. So something needs to change, and change fast, to move Tag away from last place to make that happen. Well, what does this? Well, DLC of course. And Mori himself seems to be the one baiting the player base this time, claiming that more DLC is on the way sooner rather than later. I've already made a video giving a more in-depth response to his words, so I won't bother jumping back into that now. I think it's time to face the facts that the game may end up dying if the EVO announcement is lacking in size. Sure, one can say this is a giant leap, but I can kind of defend this. Like most competitive fighters, people often say that a game isn't dying as long as it has support. This is certainly true, but at the same time, these are the same groups of people that often cite how a game's offline scene is what really matters, not net play. Well, that said, if offline scenes start seeing player numbers dropping, let alone EVO of all places, doesn't that constitute a dying game? Now yes, I'm aware that when the patch came out, a lot of players came back to the game, but just like with Central Fiction's patch that brought Jubei, I don't expect this resurgence to last forever. Personally, I think the way that we, the players, can keep the game alive is to show it support, the same way that we show support for Central Fiction. Central Fiction's player base, especially its net play player base, was in decline well before Jubei's release, and took an even steeper decline once Tag was released. This meant the only players that were left were the extremely competitive players that rejected Tag for one reason or another. Of course, there are some like myself that can bounce between the 2 games, but that's the exception, not the rule. I bring this up because once EVO comes, as I've stated before, depending upon what is revealed, Tag's future will either be bright or it may be bleak. If a lot of content is revealed to be coming in a timely manner, then the game will continue to flourish. Should the opposite happen, well, look at what happened after months of teasing the 5th Fate to get an idea. Ways to make sure that the game keeps getting attention is to not leave it up to the big faces in your community to stream it or put the word out there. If you want to support the game, there's nothing stopping you, the individual, from pushing the game just as much as anyone else. There's a certain someone who I won't say any names, but mentions Blade Strangers on literally every video I make. Now that's promotion. Tweet about the game, hold tournaments for it, anything that gets people talking about it and gets people looking. After all, it's this kind of behavior that got Under Night at EVO after so many years. CEO is the next big stop for the game. Let's see what happens. So what do you guys think about the state of tag? Let me know in the comments below.